Hello, everyone, and welcome to the weekly Sig Doc meeting for Kubernetes. Today is July 10th, 2018. I apologize in advance if I cut out a lot. I'm still recovering from pneumonia, so I will attempt to make liberal use of the mute button and not blow out your earphones when I cough. Let's start with new contributors. Just looking really quickly, I don't see any new contributors today. I don't see any new contributors yet. We can welcome folks as they join. Let's see, let's go on to updates and reminders. So some updates, happy news. We have two more maintainers. We have two new approvers, I should say. Let me change that. For Sig Docs, we have Caitlin Barnard from CNCF. Caitlin is our Kubernetes blog guru and also a Hugo devotee and enthusiast. So Caitlin has been working on Kubernetes for quite some time and has recently stepped up her involvement in the docs in general and not just blog posts. And it's great to have her joining us. Also, we have Zach Arnold from Y-Green, who is going to be the release meister for the 1.12 cycle in the docs. So Zach shadowed Misty during 1.11, and glad to have him as an approver. I just wanted to say again, congratulations to Misty, to Zach Arnold, and to Nick Chase on the 1.11 docs. You folks really knocked it out of the park, so good job.
Yay.
Thank you. Let's see. Okay, PR Wranglers. I put together a draft of the schedule for approvers for the PR Wrangler shifts through the rest of 2018. The link is there in the agenda. I also roughed in a little bit of the actual, what the actual Wrangler duties look like. There's definitely more room for that to be, there's definitely room for that to be more complete. If you are an approver and you look at that schedule and you're just like, I cannot do this, feel free to talk with other approvers, change your stuff around. I tried to build the schedule based on what I know of what folks are doing for conferences and things like that. For the upcoming year, but definitely please do review that schedule and give feedback. Let's see. I don't know that we need to devote meeting time to it. I would just say, approvers, please look at that schedule and let's talk about it either in Slack or let's just talk about it in Slack. All right, moving on. Another update on translation repositories. So there is an agenda item within the SIG architecture meeting this week. Apparently, all new repositories for Kubernetes have to be approved by SIG architecture, which makes sense. So there is a meeting, or there's an agenda item at this week's SIG architecture meeting to discuss adding translation repos for Japanese and Korean. I will be at that meeting, and hopefully we can figure out, hopefully we can get to these repositories added and also talk about how to streamline the process of adding new translation repositories more smoothly. This has taken a while, and I would like for it to not take as long as it did this time in the future. Let's see. Steve, you added an update about Chiming Teng moving all of the YAML configuration files to a common directory. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, just thank you to Chiming for doing that. It was a big job, 15 PRs, and he just cranked them out one after the other. So there's a little bit of follow-up work to do, but for the most part, that's done. The YAML files no longer sit in the same directory with the topic, but they all sit together in a common directory.
Awesome. Yeah, I was looking at the PR that you linked in the agenda, And that is really handy work. It was a really cool implementation. So yes, big thank you to Qiming for doing that. Paris, how nice to see you. Do you have anything that you would like to add to the agenda before we get rolling through it?
Sorry to come off mute. I was going to add the website redesign to the agenda. I was just trying to find the issue number so I could add it on there. But I just wanted to give an update that for kubernetes.io/community, CNCF, specifically Caitlin Bernard, I'm like looking at all of your heads right now. I don't see Caitlin on. But Caitlin is going to be doing a mock of a redesign that would encompass a calendar, a more modern view of a calendar, and other very important community-related topics, and then also include like all of our communication platforms, etc. I wanted to let everybody know here that obviously I know that you are the owners of the website, so we're going to be doing updates here. So when the mock comes through, we will gladly present to this group. We'll also present it to contributor experience. So we'll just do some double work. But if anybody has any comments, questions, or suggestions, we're going to direct all of those to the GitHub issues. So we have one place, one source of truth. So that's pretty much it for me, unless anybody has any other questions, concerns, or comments.
Sorry, I'm just taking notes really quick.
Yeah. Yep. And let me find that issue for you too, Zach. Hold on one sec.
That's awesome to hear. I'm glad to hear that the community site redesign is moving forward.
Yeah. I mean, I know CNCF has said several times in the past if we wanted the entire site to be either redesigned or repurposed or what have you, that they would be very open to hearing, listening, and or hiring other outside sources for that work. So I guess that's just something to keep in your back pocket for the rest of the pages.
That's exciting. Mm-hmm. Cool. All right. Thank you, Paris.
Yeah, thank you.
And let's move to the next item. Misty, do you want to give an update on Netlify deploy tokens?
Yeah, so this was an interesting exercise yesterday. We had a lot of deploy keys in the repo that were not being used anymore, and it was just actually unclear what all that stuff was about. At one point last week or the week before, we had 2 webhooks configured for Netlify in our GitHub repo. Like, there were just a lot of unknowns, and I think in the past, Andrew Chen took on the Netlify sort of relationship and configuration, but that also makes him a single point of failure. And I wanted to understand what was going on, make sure that our repo was secure, and fix a problem that we've been having too, where we were getting Netlify notifications in the comments, but we weren't getting the signal that the tests passed in the pull requests. So all that stuff was down to some configuration problems. I think it's all sorted out now. I added all of the deploy keys that we still needed back again and renamed them. The wrinkle here is that you can't do that from Netlify's side. When you first create the deploy keys, you can only kind of do it later if you get the information you need from Netlify support and then put them back again. So there's no way to rename those. So anyway, the long and short of it is there needs to be a deploy key for every branch that we deploy. That's what those are for. And every branch that we deploy is like a Netlify site. That's kind of the one-to-one relationship. There's also a different kind of token. So I think that maybe even Jennifer and Andrew had either forgotten about this or were confused by it. Some of the things that Netlify needs don't use a deploy key. They use a personal access token that's on somebody's GitHub account settings and gives them the right permission for the repo. So any of us can do it. Effectively, like anybody that has any access at all to our repo, doesn't need push access or anything, can create that personal access token, and that gets used by the webhook directly, and it also gets used on Netlify's side for the comments and other kinds of notifications that we get out of Netlify. So it's a little bit weird on them that it's somebody's personal access token. And I think that if that person leaves the Kubernetes org, their personal access token would stop working. So this is like something that we need to be aware of, because any one of us could be the one who needs to regenerate that personal access token if things stop working. So I'm documenting like all of there's like 3 setup points between GitHub and Netlify. They're all 3 separate. They're all 3 slightly differently configured. So I'm documenting it so that if any part of that breaks, we can put it back again. And also if we ever just need to kind of do a reset and rotate everything, which is effectively what I did yesterday, then we can do that. Like if we had security concerns or anything else like that. So I am going to share that document and make Zach the owner of it. You, Zach. And then, because there's some secret information in there, like there are the mappings between the deploy keys and the sites that we currently have. So that's something that it's only moderately sensitive information, because Netlify only has read access to our repo. It doesn't write anything to the repo. But anyway, so that's what I did part of yesterday. Hopefully that makes sense.
Thank you very much for taking that on. That was, yeah, when I was looking at the number of deploy keys that were in the repo, it was confusing to look at. So thank you for sorting through all of that. And
well, something weird is that I would assume that if you delete a site from Netlify, it would delete the deploy keys from GitHub, but it's possible that that's not the case. So I think that I actually need to go and delete the 1.6 site, because I don't think we need to build 1.6 anymore. So that'll be a good test, because there is a deploy key for the 1.6 site. So like if I have the okay to go and delete that now that 111 is out, then we will see. Because if that's the case, then that means that that's going to be tricky to manage, because when you make a new site in Netlify, it makes a new deploy key that's just called like Netlify deploy key. And so with the ones that I haven't like re-added and renamed, it would be hard for us to map them. We'd have to like somehow track the fingerprints if we wanted to, if we needed to manage. So anyway, I'll report back on that if you want me to delete the 1.6 site.
Yes, it would be, I think deleting the 1.6 site key is, yeah, that's the way to go. And yeah, it will be really interesting to hear how that goes.
So there's something else that like, maybe we can like play around with this on a test Netlify site, but Netlify has a feature. Well, they have 2 different ways that you can make multiple sites, because our sites are kind of based on the branches. And it looks like you can have one site that builds multiple branches, or you can have it the way we have it, where every site we have set up builds only one branch. And maybe some of that's new since we set up Netlify. So it would be interesting to see if that streamlines management a little bit, because then we might only need one deploy key for the whole site. And we would be able to like remove and add branches to build pretty easily. Like it would just be taking 1.6 out of the list or whatever. So that may be something we want to play around with, but definitely not like on the live site.
Sure.
Because there may be some reason why it didn't get used. And I can also ask Andrew about that. He wasn't able to make this meeting.
Yeah, I would love to, yeah, if you want to follow up with Andrew, I would love to hear how that goes, because I think you may be right. If we can deploy, if we can choose the option of deploying a single site with multiple branches, that does sound like it would be easier.
We have a few other sites that are in different repos. Like we have the Chinese translation, and Andrew has one that's when he was working on the user journeys that was just building his fork. But all the other ones are just the website repo, just different branches.
Okay. Do you want to check back in next week?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about Zoom maintenance. This is not really so much a discussion thing, it's more properly an update. Recently, I guess the Kubernetes community has experienced some bad actor problems with attendees in Kubernetes Zoom channels. So we have to do some maintenance for the Sig Docs Zoom. I'm going to take that on this week. And what I think the most visible piece of that will be a regenerated link. So we will need to update the meeting invitation for this meeting with a new Zoom link. If I understand that correctly, Paris, yes? Okay. So you should see a meeting update go out this week with a different Zoom link, and that's why we're basically tightening up what moderation controls that we can. Zoom's moderation suite isn't the best, but there are things that we can do more actively than we're doing right now. So that is the change that you will see. There will be a new Zoom link for this meeting, and that's why is to make the community more secure.
Zach, if I may butt in, I'm actually going to send another email out to the leads to let you know that I will do sort of like an AMA recording / demo / stuffs where you can pretend to be a bad actor, and I'll show you exactly the protocol and the procedure for that. I mean, as far as the users are concerned, like everybody on this call, you won't necessarily see any major changes except for like what Zach mentioned with a fresh link. So most of the burden, unfortunately, is going to be on the chairs and team leads and folks that are running the meetings.
Thank you.
Thank you, Zach, ahead of time, by the way.
Oh yeah, cheers. Just sorry that. Thank you for making it very easy to follow. You provided very good documentation, and this is the community that is born to appreciate that.
It was a lot of text. I felt so bad writing that. I was like, I can't believe we're writing a wall of text for Zoom moderation controls, but here we are. So I apologize in advance for the lengthy documentation.
No apology needed. If it's accurate and totally helpful, never need to apologize. So thank you. All right. I have a note to revisit the discussion from 2 weeks ago about how to make sure that feature documentation is updated accurately. But a lot of that discussion requires Andrew to be here, and he's not today. So I'm going to suggest that we postpone this for another week until he can join us. Let's see. Is Jennifer with us yet? I do not see her. This is, let's see, issue with generated docs for Kubelet. Does anyone else know enough context for this? Or let's hold this as well for Jennifer. Okay, so moving on, Jared, I see that you have added an item for the docs contribution landing page is weird. Want to say more about that?
Oh, do I? Certainly. Yeah, so I was over the holiday break, I was contributing to a different open source product, and I was talking to that group, And I was like, oh, look at how we do contribution on Kubernetes. It's so great. And then I clicked through the documentation button and then clicked documentation contributors. And then we have the three options. I'm a code contributor, I'm a community contributor, and I'm a docs contributor. And this sort of journey is pretty broken when I click through it. The co-contributor is probably the best. It links to a specific co-contributor guide. The community guide looks like it's a, here, I'll add a link here. The community guide is looks like it's like an older doc that's been imported. It still needs quite a bit of cleanup. And I don't know if that falls on our team or Paris, if that falls in your team. But the thing that really caught me by surprise was the poor experience of the documentation. If you click on, I want to contribute to documentation, you're immediately taken to a page on content organization. And basically saying the site uses Hugo, content organization is a core concept, which is true, but it's probably not the first thing that a brand new contributor needs to know about our docs. So I'm unsure how this ended up being the top page for contribute. So I'd like to see a landing page of some kind get written for contributing to content, just because this experience is very poor.
That's my thing that I'm working on.
Okay. I that's what I thought, but I didn't know if this was a Hugo migration issue, or if this was something that's in progress. I just haven't heard an update on it for a while, and I didn't see an update.
It's partly Hugo, because when you go to that content organization page, it looks to me like it's at the top of the list because the list is in alphabetical order. And
yeah, I didn't see an issue for it, so I
Yeah.
just I didn't know. So I'm like, I solved this problem, and it kind of embarrassed me in a meeting.
I think somebody has been, I think everybody's been holding off on making future improvements because they knew that I was working on something. And
okay.
my thing does address that. The other thing that I want to do as sort of like maybe a follow-on to my contributor guide stuff, so that I can actually get something shipped, is I want to see us have edit and feedback links like we have now, but I want them to go directly to the thing instead of going to like an intermediate page that I guess is supposed to teach you what to do, but isn't super helpful, and just for everybody makes an extra click.
Yeah, I originally thought there was just like, I think we used to point people to the like create a PR page, and that's not really the most, I mean, I guess it's like, it's the most common thing that people are trying to do. And I think that's what caught me by surprise. And then to hit with this page, I assumed it was a Hugo migration issue, but I didn't see an issue for it or like a fix. And is there a timeline for what you're working on and when you plan to have it done? Because I also know
I'm pretty much supposed to be only working on that for like the next 2 weeks. So hopefully I'll have it totally, like a lot of the content's written, it was before Hugo. And so the end of last week, I like made it work with Hugo, but I've also done a release since then. So I've learned a lot more stuff than I knew when I first started writing it. So
okay.
I want to I want to get it out there in the world.
Cool. Yeah, I didn't mean to like, I don't know, rain on your parade or poo-poo your work. I just didn't know what the progress was, and I haven't sat in on one of these meetings for a while. So thank you. I'll just look forward to that, Misty. Is there an issue that you're tracking that in?
I don't think so.
Okay. Can you create an issue so I can like, I don't know, point to it, know what's going on? Because I think that was the thing. I also searched for an issue that was tracking this, and I couldn't find anything.
Yeah, I will.
We do have a general issue for going through and getting all the table of contents in a chosen order rather than an alphabetical order.
Yeah, but this seems a lot bigger because if it was just a TOC, like I thought there might be a page that I could just point to instead, but and Misty, I know you're working on a much larger rewrite, but I didn't know if there was sort of like an interstitial fix the Hugo breaking thing. And then the imported community guide for code and community contributor. I don't know. Are you working on that as well, Misty? Are you folding that in?
I don't know that I'm aware of that.
Okay.
I'll have to have.
That might be out of scope. I would definitely fix the docs issue first, and then maybe we can ask Paris for some guidance on that side of things.
One thing that is up that's not directly related to this is a pull request about the code of conduct and the way that we actually display it or don't display it in the site. Right now it's super, super indirect because we're just reusing the CNCF code of conduct and we're like reusing it through 3 levels of indirection, and it doesn't actually show up on the site. It only shows up through a Google search.
We merged that PR yesterday. Thank you for that, by the way.
Oh, cool. Awesome. So that's also just an interim because there's going to be, I guess there's a code of conduct committee that's forming. So I guess CNCF is going to have its own, or maybe Kubernetes is going to have its own code of conduct, in which case it'll...
Kubernetes is.
Cool.
So back to the user journeys for a minute. So Jared, some of the things you were mentioning were about the poor experience on the documentation homepage and navigating through the user journeys. And so our intern Neha has been doing a user research on that page, and she has a whole body of results from doing that research. And I know that Andrew's viewpoint after looking at what she came up with is we need to just tear that whole thing down and start fresh with something simpler. So that's in the works right now.
Okay, not the answer I hope to hear, but I'm really curious to see your results and to fix that page. I think there's the people who I've showed it to are like, oh, this is really great, but I definitely think there are some ways to improve it. So maybe we take the concepts from it and apply it elsewhere. Yeah, totally look forward to that. Glad people are working on it. I just didn't know the status on it.
So do people think it's great at first glance, or do they think it's great when they try to use it and click through?
People, when I was showing it to, I was working with some folks over on google.org who are doing another open source project called Open Data Kit. And I was showing it to them and doing a demo of our docs because they need a lot of guidance on their content. And they saw the landing page and were very impressed by it at first glance. And then as I was walking through it, I was like, oh, that behavior is unexpected. Oh, that behavior is unexpected. And
Dawning
I think
horror.
What's that?
Just the dawning horror.
I've given a few demos in the past, and so I know how to do the sort of hand wavy and move quickly towards something else that looks better. But for me, it was just a surprise at that point, and I knew it was a Hugo migration issue, but I didn't know what the fix was, and I didn't know if there was an issue filed for it. So to answer your question, Steve, it was the initial impression is good from people who see the page, but I think once people start clicking through it, they kind of don't know where they're ending up, or what they get in response is unexpected.
Yeah.
Thank you for raising this, Jared. It's because I totally missed this. I haven't looked at the. I didn't even think to look at the contribute pages after the Hugo migration, and yeah, this is not a good experience. And I agree about the create an issue and an edit this page. Those UI elements at the bottom of the page that's a really confusing experience. Cool. Yeah, Misty, if there's any way that I can contribute to the work you're doing with the contributor experience, I'm more than happy to help.
Okay, I have a branch up, but I don't yet have a PR up. I'll also look at this specific issue and see if there's a quick fix for it that I can just put in the PR.
Okay.
I was working on a doc for myself calling it something like newbie getting started contributing to Kubernetes open source doc, kind of like for my own information, for somebody who's not very familiar with GitHub or Kubernetes, and if it can help you any, Misty, it's just a Word doc on Google Docs. I can send it to you right now. It's it's half baked, but just for another perspective.
Yeah, that would be great. My email address is just mistyhacks@google.com.
Okay,
If you want to share that along.
great. Thanks.
Excellent. Jennifer, I see that you have joined us in the interim. Do you want to talk about generated docs for Kubelet?
Sure. If it's not too noisy. I'm afraid I am out in a semi-public place. Is background noise too much? Okay. So interestingly, this came up because I was working on a Heptio project that was documenting some additional kubelet flags. And I thought, okay, well, we should refer to the upstream documentation. I go and I look at the kubelet reference docs, and lo and behold, none of the flags that I'm documenting are even there on the page. Which is when I found the pull. I thought I remembered seeing the pull request that I refer to in the agenda, and in fact, a pull request refers back to an issue that goes into substantially more detail. The kubelet reference docs are generated, but there's something going on upstream in Kubernetes with the way that the kubelet flags are actually written, such that the generated content is not happening when we run the hack generate script. So there is a pull request. The pull request manually fixes the problem for now. Chimeng is one of the people who's working on this problem with the person who submitted a pull request. I'm not looking at either one right now, so I'm sorry I'm not providing all the names.
Looks like Jim Angel, who is here with us on the call.
Anyway, I would like to merge the pull request because, well, okay, partly because Heptio needs it, but partly because that's a big chunk of reference content that's missing, and it does not look as though it's a quick fix to get it fixed in Kubernetes, but we have the issue and we have people who want to get it fixed. So it feels like the interim manual fix would not be with us for too long.
Oof, that's a big PR.
Yeah.
But no, I hear you. Yeah, it doesn't solve the underlying issue, but it does, like you point out, solve the more immediate need. So, Zach, it looks like you went through and reviewed, both you and Chimeng reviewed this. Zach, you gave an approve. Is there anything? Oh, yes, you did. It's in the timeline.
No way. Oh, that's right. God, I approved it before I had the ability to do so.
I thought
Does
it was.
that mean something now?
No, alas, your power is not
Apparently
retroactive.
I thought I should bring it up to the group, though, because this does not seem like it seems like we want to be aware as a group of the underlying issue. It is linked from the pull request. We can pull it out. We can document it elsewhere, too. I'm willing to take point on making sure that there's an issue in the KK repository against this.
Okay.
I don't think that there is yet, and that's where the solution needs to be devised. But like I said, I thought it should come before the group and not just get decided arbitrarily by me hitting approve.
Oh, yes, I did approve it. Sorry. I was still looking around. I was like, okay, 9344. Got it.
So, Zach, if you approve it again right now that you're an official approver, that will merge it, right?
I think so.
You can be the approver. I wasn't intending to like stump on your approval rights.
No. It's totally cool. I'm also kind of worried now if I approve it, then everybody's gonna be like, he did it. It was him. He's the one that broke it.
It's documented. Hey, it's documented against my name in the agenda. I've got a comment in the PR too. People can point fingers.
You know, I could just leave a note in the agenda saying, "Oh my God, Zach did it." But then there's this, like, this contribution. Like, this video will also be available. So
I love how you can see the stress on his face in the video. I know. It's getting worse.
Yeah.
We start sweating.
Okay, we want to do this right now. Who volunteers to say approve?
I will.
I vote Zach. I vote for Zach. I vote for Zach.
It's done.
Zach, do it.
Okay. Here you go, Tide Bot. Did I misspell approve? No, okay. Opening night jitters, Your Honor. That's rough.
This PR is approved. Hooray.
Good job, Jim.
Yes, thank you for taking that on, Jim. That was a really big chunk of work.
And for helping catch the underlying problem too. I looked at that and I thought, I looked at what's actually on the doc site. I thought, wait a minute, Toto, I don't think we're in Kansas anymore. But I was also pretty sure, all I could remember was that there was the word kubelet in a commit message. But sure enough, there it was. So,
Jennifer, do you want to revisit this next week just to follow up on the issue in KK?
Yes, if I can attend. I'm at OSCON next week, and so my attendance is not guaranteed, but might happen.
Me too. Let's meet up.
Me too.
Right. Oh, it's part of my.
Oh, so we're having a Kubernetes party Wednesday night at a brewery near the convention center, and we're doing.
I already RSVP.
I feel so left out.
Oh, wait, where is this?
In Portland. In Portland, take the little skipper up from SFO, Jared. Come visit us.
Oh man. Oh, it's very sad. Oh, no, I'm good to miss it. Sorry, guys. But let me know next time. I'm in.
Paris always knows the good restaurants.
Paris, we need to confer.
Yeah, I'll talk to you on Slack later on.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. That is everything that we have on the agenda. Anything last minute to add?
The new kubelet page is live.
Hooray.
Yeah.
Zach, did you want to mention Write the Docs?
Yes.
Our talk was accepted.
Oh, yes. So Jared and I submitted a proposal to Write the Docs Cincinnati in August, talking about the migration process from Jekyll to Hugo, and less about the technical merits of Jekyll and Hugo, although those will get a mention, and more about the actual process of what it was like to do that as a SIG. That proposal was accepted, and Jared and I will be presenting on that in August. And if you are interested in, I'm sure we will have an early draft. If you're interested in being a reviewer for an early draft of our talk, we would welcome the feedback when we get there.
Congratulations on getting it accepted.
And it wasn't even owing to nepotism or insider speak. I recused myself from reviewing that particular proposal.
Hooray! Thank you.
Even better.
Yes, I was on the committee, but it was unanimous by everybody else.
Hooray. All right. That concludes this meeting. Thanks, everyone. Have a good week.
Bye.